Hi, I'm Shelley.
And I'm Kate, and you're listening to One Lump or Two,
the boldest breast cancer podcast yet.
Join us each week as we offer an intimate glimpse into the challenges and triumphs of facing breast cancer head-on in our 30s.
In Series 2, we're going to be joined by you, our listeners, and some experts in the field to help us all feel a little less alone and a lot more informed.
Now, let's pull back that curtain and dive in.
Hello everyone, welcome back to today's episode of One Lump or Two. Today we are talking to Maggies. For me, Maggies feels a little bit like a household name when it comes to cancer because we are so lucky to have an absolutely incredible Maggies centre at our local hospital, which is where Shelley and I were both treated. Maggies first opened in 1996 and they first opened with their branch that's in Edinburgh. They offer free help and support for those diagnosed and their friends and their family. All of their support is free. There's no need for referral. There's no appointment and there's no limit on the time you can utilise and be within their care. So our local Maggies Centre is beautiful. It is directly opposite our cancer and haematology ward and it is nestled in this lovely forest, and if you go, the building itself is up on stilts, and if you go underneath it there's a stream, and it's just beautiful and tranquil, and I couldn't be more grateful for the fact that we have this amazing resource on our doorstep, and for that Shelley and I are incredibly lucky. So today we're going to talk to Caroline and Ali, and they'll be able to tell you all about what Maggies can offer you.
Hello, everyone. Today we are joined by two lovely people from Maggies. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you want to just start by introducing yourselves and just telling us a little bit about your role at Maggies and what you do?
So my name's Caroline McKinnell and I work at Maggies as the co-centre head.
And I'm Ali Clark and I'm one of the cancer support specialists.
So we're a cancer support charity. And we're based in the Maggies Centre in Edinburgh, which was actually the first Maggies Centre in the UK. And we opened in 1996, so quite a while ago now. And we now have 24 centres across the UK. All of the Maggies Centres, they're all based in the near cancer centres in the grounds of the hospital. So as I say, we're in Edinburgh, so we're based in the Western General Hospital, just directly behind Ward 1, which is the ward that people go to attend for chemotherapy. And we're open Monday to Friday, 9 till 5. And people don't need an appointment. I think that's a really important thing. People can just drop in at their convenience, and they will always be given a really warm welcome.
And I think the thing to say as well is Maggies is a really non-clinical space, and all the Maggies centres are gorgeous buildings where you walk in and there's a really homely, kind of bright, colourful feel, a kitchen table, a friendly welcome coming in the door. We've got a lovely team of volunteers who make a point of welcoming people through the door. But the staff who make up the Maggies centres are cancer support specialists, of which in Edinburgh we have 5, myself and Caroline included, and we're all oncology nurses who've worked in oncology at the Western for many years. We also have psychologists who are based here. We have a team of 3 psychologists, and we have a benefits advisor as well, and that's who makes up the kind of core programme team, as well as all the lovely volunteers that we have in the centre.
So we're quite a small team. We're as much here for the person with cancer as well as for their family members. So or friends affected by their diagnosis. Anybody is welcome to come, and normally between us we can help to navigate around most issues that people come in to chat to us about.
I think a lot of people come in feeling pretty anxious and overwhelmed, so helping them just to have a space to do that, and just initially sometimes even the space is helpful for them to come in.
And that's actually something that people comment on. I love seeing people coming in for the first time because you just see their eyes kind of light up and they're having a look around, and a lot of visitors comment, don't they, on how beautiful the building is and just the nice feel of the buildings, which is lovely to see. And as Ali mentioned, it's a non-clinical environment, so it's really a home from home.
We're lucky to have one in Oxford, at Maggie Centre,
Yeah.
and it's really gorgeous. And they're all designed completely differently, aren't they? I think they've been designed by different architectures for different purposes, I guess. Because we've got one in Oxford where it kind of like backs onto like a little woodland area and like a big field, and you kind of go in and it is kind of built to be this like beautiful like treehouse kind of vibe, and it's got like a log burner, and like all the windows face out onto the foresty bit at the back, so that you can't really see the hospital. So like once you're sat inside and you're looking out at like the lovely like trees and stuff, you just wouldn't know you're at the hospital. So yeah, like I second that. Like whenever you walk in, you're just like, oh, like it is like calming, like no hospital vibe whatsoever.
Yeah, ours is directly opposite our cancer and haematology
Yeah.
centre, and obviously there's the big blue sign with our favourite words on it. That sign haunts me, and I've always found like anytime I've gone into our Maggie Centre, I just forget that sign that causes me so much stress every time I go to the hospital is essentially the other side of the road, and it's just an amazing environment to be able to create that much peace so close to something that is causing so much angst.
I second what you say. Actually, you actually see people coming in the door and visibly relax. And in our centre as well, you don't see the hospital out of the windows. You see a beautiful garden. And we have got a stunning garden in the Edinburgh Centre. You follow a wee path down, and at the very bottom there's a beautiful garden room that people can use and sit in to look at the garden. So you wouldn't know you were in the hospital grounds. And you're right, to see that sign, you know, saying where you are in the hospital can be so distressing for people. You do see them visibly relax when they come in the building, because it looks so different.
It's so important because so much of your care is clinical and, you know, in large white rooms that smell very clean, and you're going from hospitals to doctor's appointments to potentially therapies. Like they're all in this same kind of environment, and it's I mean, our Maggie Centre is just beautiful. I remember like the first time seeing it and being like, I really want to go in there. Can't go in there just yet because I've got an appointment to get to, but I'm really gonna go in there.
Earlier today, a guy who was having treatment came in with his parents, and I think his excuse, if you like, for sort of saying to them to come in was he wanted them to have support and come on in and get a cup of tea and you can wait there. But actually it was so that his mum and dad got support, and that he came in and kind of checked us out a wee bit to see what the support was. It happens all the time.
Yeah, and we always say that's fine to do, and that's purposely why we have our volunteers often meeting and greeting people at the door, because particularly if it's somebody's first time, they might not wish to chat to us, and that's absolutely fine and acceptable. So it's quite nice, the warm welcome from the volunteers. But often I had somebody in today as well, and he's now going to bring his children who are in their 20s and 30s, but he's now going to bring them in. So it's often one family member comes in and kind of susses us out, and then more of the family begin to come. And often if people are in the inpatient wards, if they're well enough, we'll say to family members, if they're well enough to come down from the ward, why don't you come and have your visit here? Just you're staying away from the clinical environment, and a bit of a change of scene for the person who's the inpatient.
Friday, that actually happened with somebody from the ward, and they surprised her by bringing her dog. So her family brought her dog into Maggie so that they could meet her. And that she didn't know that she was coming over and the dog was going to be there, which was gorgeous. So,
that's so sweet.
Such a precious gift to be able to give someone as well.
And I think that's where we're lucky here at Maggie's, is we can try and make things happen for people. So a couple of weeks ago, I had a lady in, and her wife is actually in a haematology ward at the moment, and it was their son's birthday. And she said, if her wife was well enough to come over to the centre, would it be at all possible to have a little quiet space? And I said, I think we can do a little bit better than that. So I showed her down to the garden room that we have, And I said, we can give you this space. So it was lovely. Her wife was well enough to come out of hospital. Her kids, who were 3 and 5, came,
Oh,
and they were all down in the garden room together. And her parents, both sets of parents, came as well. And I think the highlight for the 3-year-old was that actually there was a cat in the garden and it caught a mouse.
My highlight.
So we'll always try and
Go out of our way.
go out of our way, that's it, to make a difference.
Yeah, it is things like that that really completely change people's experiences of these things. 'Cause, like, everything is just so grim and grey, like the whole experience itself, and like having those moments of colour and everything just injected into it is just, there aren't really words to express like how important that can be to someone.
I think in a safe space as well, where pause really,
And I think that's right. We often say to people, people will come in at whatever stage of their cancer journey they're at, and this can be a really happy place to be. You can hear lots of laughter in a Maggies centre, but it's also a safe place to feel emotional and to cry. And often we'll have people saying, "I'm so sorry, I'm not meaning to cry." And we say, "Look, this is a safe place. This is a safe place to cry. It's a safe place to feel emotional."
yeah, definitely. I actually work at the hospital where I was treated now. And I often pop into Maggie's on like my lunch break if I'm feeling a bit like overwhelmed at work, because I work in oncology. So there's definitely days where I'm like, oh, it's not such a good day today. And then I'll just pop to the Maggie Centre for a bit of quiet time and a cup of tea, and it's just nice. It's not just about kind of like, obviously, like people just coming in and having a cup of tea and sitting down. Like, you do a lot of like courses for people as well, don't you?
Yes, we do.
What sort of things do you offer?
It's wide ranging, but some of the things that we offer, we have a focus on information and we have a focus on well-being. So we do things like stress management and some sleep workshops, or preparing people for treatment. So we do a session called prehabilitation. So that's preparing people for cancer treatment, whether it's surgery, chemotherapy, or radiotherapy. We also, so today I was taking a session called Getting Started for chemotherapy, and we run that in conjunction with our colleagues at the hospital. One of the nurses from the hospital comes over, and we prepare people for coming for their chemotherapy treatment. And then we have other things like Where Now, which is for people who have maybe finished their cancer treatment, with people with curable cancers who've finished, because often there's quite an expectation by family members when people finish that, oh, you must feel so excited and you want to have a party, and that isn't actually often how people feel. It can be that, and we view that as that's people going into recovery, and that can be hard, and often it's the enormity of what people have been through can hit them at that stage. So we do a lovely course called Where Now. Does that resonate with?
Oh my God, yeah.
I think both Shelley and I are, so we both finished treatment about 2 years ago now.
Right.
But I think now we're currently at points where we're a bit like, oh God, like this is the rest of our lives. Your active treatment, even though it feels like forever, it's, maybe about a year of your life, and it's on autopilot. You're being told where to go, where to be, to have all this stuff done to you, and you're spat back out the system on the other side. I've just been discharged as well, so I think I had a slight freak out when it was just like, oh God, like what now? Like life does just carry on, and I am still back and forth to my GP to sort out side effects and things like that, but there is then just this enormity of like something that's been your identity for so long, and even if you've tried not to let that to define you, in some ways it kind of has, because you've been through this huge physical, mental, emotional change. And now it's just work and life and all the expectations that come with that. I think both Shelley and I have had like quite a difficult couple of weeks the last.
So I would say often the emotional impact of what you've been through, it will catch you at some point. There's no set time for anyone, and because everybody's so different, there's never ever a day that passes in here where somebody doesn't walk through the door and say something like, I don't know why I'm feeling like this. I'm feeling a little bit lost, or who am I now after all of the treatment? Because as you both know, the treatment is so grueling and relentless, and the appointments are thick and fast, that sometimes it's the after part of treatment where people kind of have that moment where they take a breath and think, you know, actually they kind of come up for air. And as they come up for air, as you both know, so does the emotional impact of what you've been through. And
Yeah.
never ever a day where somebody doesn't walk through the door and actually say, I feel a little bit lost, or I feel a wee bit of a shell of the person that I was, and how do I get that back? And as Caroline says, it's an ongoing process, as you both realise, of healing and recovery. And I always say to people on the We're Now course, you're not recovered, you're recovering, which is ongoing.
I think also the support that people get from, say, coming to a group like We're Now, and sometimes we see friendships being formed as well, which is really nice. But I think this validating that actually this is normal to feel like that, because so many people just think, what's happening to me? And so the fact that we say, look, we've actually got a course for this. This is how many people are affected and are feeling similar to what you're describing, can actually, you can kind of sometimes see the relief in people's faces when you can normalize it and say, no, that's really quite normal. We have a lot of people coming in who feel similar to how you're feeling today.
Yeah, it's just nice to know that you're not alone, I guess, because I think cancer treatment, I think especially as a young person, can feel really isolating. So yeah, it's just nice to know that like you're not alone in your feelings. And I think what you've just said is going to resonate with like literally everybody listening. I don't think there's one person that I've spoken to that hasn't found like the after cancer like the hardest part.
I don't actually think that person exists that doesn't find that bit one of
No, I don't think they do. But it's so crazy because when you're in it, like I was expecting to feel this like massive relief, like on my last day of radiotherapy, I was like, oh my God, this is it. And I just didn't feel that at all. And it's such a weird feeling. So it's so important that like those courses like that exist so that people do know that like that it's not just them and they're not like being complete weirdos.
Absolutely, and that everybody feels that way.
Yes,
absolutely, definitely. And I think that's the thing about Maggies is doing some of the courses is about bringing people together, who actually really get it.
And often the lovely tips that people can pass on to each other, and you know, that works really well too.
We wanted to talk a little bit about Look Good, Feel Good.
Look Good,
Is that
Feel
right?
Good.
Yeah. Is that like a really popular one as well? Because I feel like I've heard that being offered at Maggie's in Oxford, but I never went to it.
So I think when we were in treatment, I think it was all an online course because both Shelley and I were treated during the pandemic. So there was an awful lot not available to us in the same way. But I think it was online when it would have been bandied about.
Such a popular course, and actually if you've both only done it online, I'm sure you would be able to go and do it at your nearest Maggies centre.
Yeah,
because there's not a time frame that's best. It can be sometimes people do it as they're about to start on their kind of cancer journey, or it could be the middle, it could be the end, but there's not really a set time. And in Edinburgh, it's a fortnightly face-to-face course that they do. And they do still offer Look Good, Feel Better, a charity that we've worked with alongside for about 20 years. And they do still offer some online courses for people. And it's a lovely opportunity for a kind of skincare and a makeup lesson. But bringing people together is usually about 10 people on each course. And it is so popular. It's on every fortnight in our centre. And I don't know if either of you were gifted with a beautiful goodie bag that you can get, but everybody comes and I love seeing their faces.
I love seeing them when they come out. And it's so radiant.
Amazing. The goodie bag is just exquisite. It's all top of the range, beautiful beauty products.
Wow.
I think one of the lovely things is they give people a lovely eyebrow lesson. So often when people are going to have chemotherapy, they'll be losing not just the hair on their head, their eyebrows, their eyelashes, their body hair, and they show them how to do an amazing kind of eyebrow lesson but also in the goodie bag is eyebrow products and things like that. So everything that they're shown on the day, they can then take home with that goodie bag and go and practice.
Yeah.
I think it's also, again, a wee bit like we're talking about the now, it's about normalising. So people going through and there'll be people sitting and they look good, feel better, who haven't got hair. There'll be people who are about, you know, their hair's maybe coming back in, but it's again a safe space to kind of normalise some of this, but also to have a gorgeous treat. And it's a great noise, isn't there, coming out the centre?
Oh, there is. You hear a lot of laughter, and I think that's with some of the programmes that we do. So today I was running the Getting Started for Chemotherapy session, and I had a young lady in her early 30s who's about to start chemotherapy for breast cancer. So at the end, we kind of chat to everybody individually. So we're always as cancer support specialists thinking, oh, what part of the programme would I signpost you to? So unfortunately, the chemotherapy that she's going to have, she will unfortunately lose her hair with it. So I was able to then say, would you like to come to the Look Good, Feel Better? So she's booked in for that, you know, because she was concerned about eyebrows. So she's going to come to that. Another lady who was in the session today, she's coming to it too. So they were like, oh, that's really nice. I'll look forward to seeing you then, hear how you're getting on. And again, I was able to signpost her to, there's another session that we do called Talking Heads, just for people who are going to experience hair loss. So again, a couple of people at the chemotherapy session are now also booked into Talking Heads. So there's lots of things that we can do to help go alongside people on their cancer treatment journey.
And I think just kind of on that, you know, one of the things that people worry a lot about if they're going to have a drug that's make them lose their hair is, you know, that's a visible sign to the world that actually something's wrong. And the workshop not only deals with the kind of practical aspects of things like when to cut your hair, how to care for your scalp, how to care for hair regrowth, tie scarves, but actually the emotional impact of what somebody is going to go through when they lose their hair, and ways to kind of deal with that, and I suppose normalise that it's okay to be upset, because people say to us every day in Maggie's, oh, I feel like I'm just being vain because the thing I'm bothered about is losing my hair, and we always say there's nothing vain about it. Nobody wants to lose. Like we wouldn't like to lose our hair either, you know.
And I think it's also it's not just you know, women who can be upset about losing their hair. We have, you know, a lot of men who are going to lose their hair on treatment too, and things like moustaches and beards, which are, you know, their identity. We had a lovely gentleman, and he had a purple beard, and he'd had his beard for about 20 odd years. He was about losing his beard and his identity. So it's remembering it does affect men as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask whether you get a lot of men or not, or whether it's kind of mainly women, but you do, obviously.
We get lots of men, don't we? And actually earlier on today, I think sometimes there's a misconception of Maggie's that it's all ladies that use it, and it's not. Earlier on today, I think that most of the seats that were taken up in the main part of the centre were men of all ages. One of the things we do actually in Edinburgh Centre, and probably some of the other centres, is run a men's space. So once a month we have like a drop-in space on a Friday for men to come, and it's for like an hour and a half. And that is such a brilliant group because it's all different ages of men, all different types of cancer, at all different points in their story, whether it's, you know, from just being diagnosed all the way through to kind of after treatment or going through treatment. And what's lovely about that is the noise level in the centre is fantastic on that Friday morning. It's my colleague David, who's one of our psychologists, that takes that session. And there's a lot of chortling and a lot of giggling, but a real and when you see them all leave the centre, you wouldn't actually know it was a kind of support group that just happened in the centre. You would think it was a group of friends that had just come in to all meet up with her. So we see a lot of men in the centre.
And we see that with a lot of our kind of network groups. So we have some groups for, like, say, a brain cancer support group or a pancreatic support group, and people then look forward to coming to meet, see, oh, how are you getting on, and just all the lovely kind of tips that they can give each other. We had a new person to our pancreatic support group at the beginning of the week, and they were having real trouble with nausea. And the lovely advice that they got from other people to say, well, actually, I found this helpful. Or again, in some of our other groups, like the bladder support group, where people are maybe getting used to having ileostomies and talking about stoma bags, and actually, no, I found that product useless as well. I found this bag much better.
Yeah.
So it's the depth of experience that they that they can give to each other is really, really beneficial.
There is such a huge shift that happens internally, I think, when you feel like you've found someone that understands. Like, I know that meeting Shelley was a turning point in how I was feeling, because she got it, and she got it in a way that I didn't need to explain sometimes, which is just amazing, because you go through this experience trying to explain to people that, I'll use the hair thing, for example, like, oh, I know it's just hair is something I found myself saying all the time. And because you feel like you have to justify to people why you're so upset over hair. And sometimes it's because that they're thinking, but you've got all these other things to go. But Shelley would know that it's because I went from looking like me to looking like a cancer patient. And like that in seconds, like the person I've looked in the mirror at for the last 30 years was just gone. And you don't ever get that person back, because when you come out of this the other side, you're different. And my hair has grown back, and it's longer than it was before. I've gone back and immediately dyed it exactly the same color it was. And to all intents and purposes, I look in the mirror and I look at the exact same person that maybe everybody else is seeing. So everyone else is seeing the same version of me that I was a couple of years ago. My face might be a little bit rounder because of my medication, but but to Shelley, like, she understands the trauma and the panic, and anytime I mention getting my hair cut and then immediately back out of it, there's no pressure or comments about, it's just a haircut, you can do this. It's just very much like, I get it. And that's such a wonderful feeling to just get. That's why it's so important that these groups, and especially the space that you're offering to men as well. So I do think a lot of the time men don't talk, and they don't open up. And whether that's them going through treatment or supporting someone through treatment, and even supporting someone through treatment, you're going through huge emotional changes and potentially physical changes to your life as well. And it's so invaluable to just have that place to bring people together.
I think one of the things that you've just said, actually, Kate, is that people often say, people think because I look normal, then that I'm back to normal, and that, because your hair is the same colour, because your hair is longer, then that must mean that you're fine. So some of it is also about kind of educating family and friends and supporting them as to why the person isn't fine. And I guess the lovely thing about Maggies is, we tell people to leave their fine face at the door and come in with what's actually going on, with no agenda for what you need to talk about. Is actually just come in with what's going on and let us try and help. Or they might sit beside somebody at the kitchen table, maybe perhaps like you both did, and before you know it, you've sat with somebody who's really understood and got it. And for us, that's a lovely thing to witness as well, when you see people making connections in the centre too.
Absolutely. And I think it's, the way the Maggie centres are designed, if people want to chat, often they'll sit at the kitchen table and there's biscuits and fruit and things and have a chat. But equally so, if you want to find a quieter space because you've come over from clinic and you've just had bad news, you can find both aspects in Maggie's. And that's very much, please come in and sit where you would feel comfortable.
I think that's so valuable, to be able to just do whatever you want as well. There's no expectation to have to talk to anybody. You can just sit in the corner and be like, no, I don't want to talk to you. I'll have a cup of tea and then that's it. But do you know if all the services are provided are the same at all Maggie centres?
There might be slight variation, but the programme of support is quite similar across all of the Maggie centres. But if people wish, they can have a look on our websites, and they've got all the information for each individual Maggies on our websites. But the core program's very similar. There might be the little variation, but it's pretty similar, isn't it?
And I think the nice thing as well to say is, you know, no matter what Maggie's centre that you walk into, they would all have the same feel, just like you described at the beginning of this, you know, a feeling of light and space and warm and welcome and friendly. So, you know, if people are a bit worried about maybe going into Maggie's for the first time, you know, your listeners to your podcast, reassure them that what we can absolutely guarantee is that they'll get a really warm welcome at that time as they come in. That's fine. So it could be, just as you said, a quiet space, or they might want to talk with us, or they might want to just come in and suss us out a wee bit and then come back. And all of those things are absolutely fine. So, you know, regardless of which centre you walk into, they all have the same feel.
Obviously, not every hospital has a Maggie centre. We're very lucky in Oxford. But if you kind of live nearby, you're at a different hospital, but can you go to like your nearest Maggie centre, even if you're not going to the hospital?
Absolutely, you can. And today, I think one of the people I was chatting to, they'd just been recently bereaved, and his children have come up from London. So I was able to say to him, well, your family are here just now, they're very welcome to come in. But when they go back to London, you know, please know that we've got 4 Maggie centres in London. They're very welcome to go and use those. So, and sometimes we have that actually with university students who are maybe up here at Edinburgh University, and maybe they've got a cancer diagnosis, or their parent might have a cancer diagnosis and they're from Oxford. So they'll come to us while they're at uni, and then they can go to the Oxford one in the holidays. So absolutely fine to go between, just whatever works best for individual people.
That's good to know, I think, because obviously, not every hospital is going to have a lovely Maggie centre available to them. So it's nice to know that you can just pop into whichever one you want.
Absolutely, you can.
I'd love to go and visit more of them, tour all the Maggie centres, because I imagine they're also like different, like design wise. Like I'd love to see what all the rest of them look like.
We actually had somebody in a couple of weeks ago who's a centre visitor to us, and he has actually done that. He's been round them all.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Wow.
He's been round them all. So it was really interesting to chat to him and get his feedback, but that was his mission, was to go around them all.
Yeah, do you know what? I've actually never been to Scotland, so I think I need to take a trip and maybe I'll pop in.
Yeah, please do.
Please do. There's not a Maggie's at every hospital, but our hope is that one day there will be a Maggie's centre at every hospital where there's an oncology department. That would be, that's the aim, you know, hopefully, so that more people can get support.
Yeah. And do you know how many hospitals do have oncology departments?
No, I don't.
No, I think it might be in the... Oh, I'm guessing actually. Yeah.
But I certainly know that we've got 24 centres, and there's a few new ones about to open.
Oh, is there?
The country, so yeah.
And there's some abroad now as well. So.
Oh, is there?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Maggie's has gone international. Where are they? Do you know?
So there's one in Tokyo, there's one in Amsterdam, Barcelona,
and Hong Kong.
Oh my God, that's so cool. Oh, I love that. Reaching everybody far and wide.
And it's not because Maggie's go out looking for centres in other places. It's because people come to Maggie's to say, you know, what support is an offer, and then they go back and say that's what we want where we are. And then go about making it happen, because each centre has their own fundraising team who have to raise a certain amount of money for each centre to run. It's a small charity, even though we have 24 centres. Each centre has their own fundraising team who have to raise the amount of money to make the centre continue. So, but yeah, so that's how it happens abroad, that people come. It's usually doctors that maybe worked at the Western, and then they'll say, right, that's what we want where we are, and they'll go and you know, start up a campaign, and a few years later, a Maggie's centre will be sown.
And often when a new Maggie's centre opens up, so we had the team from Amsterdam before they opened up, the whole team came over, and they actually came to the Edinburgh centre. I think they went to one of the London centres as well, so that they can see how it works here, to, you know, mirror that, and whichever country they're going back to.
That's amazing.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
So it's nice for us as well because we get to meet lots of lovely
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Do you ever get to go over there? Like, do you going to go on like a little Maggie's trip to Tokyo?
We keep suggesting it, but since we're a child,
Yeah, not quite got the budget.
maybe in our own time with our own money.
Yeah.
Well, I think everything you offer is just amazing and it's unbelievably helpful. And I know that our Maggie Centre has certainly helped me a lot and is helping Shelley still.
Yeah.
I try to avoid going to the hospital at all costs. That's where I'm at on my journey. But it is wonderful, and I'd strongly recommend to any of our listeners to look up where your local Maggie Centre is, take a look at what's on offer. You know, you might walk in there thinking that you need one thing and you discover that you need something else. And I don't think I've ever walked out of a Maggie Centre without a need fulfilled, and that's a great place to be. So how can people get in contact with you?
If people go onto the Maggie's website, they'll be able to have a look and see where their nearest Maggie centres. But there is also the opportunity for some online support through some of the Maggie centres. So I know certainly in Scotland, the Inverness Centre do quite a lot of work online because the area geographically that they cover includes some of the islands, and and it's not accessible for people to come. So certainly there's opportunity for people to also access some online and telephone support as well through Maggie's. So even if there's not a centre near to them, it's not to say that they can't get support.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming and talking to us today and giving us your time. We're very grateful for everything that you do.
Oh, it's been very lovely, kind feedback, and thank you for asking us.
Yeah.
You're more than welcome.
As well.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you.
Very
Absolutely.
If you want to share your story, we'd love to hear from you. Whether you've had cancer, you know someone that's had cancer, or you just love listening to our voices, slide into our DMs on Instagram at onelump_or2.
Or email us at onelumportwopod@gmail.com.
See you next week.
Bye!